Good morning. It is June 15th, Saturday. Beautiful day in Edmonton. A few clouds. It's warm. Just driving around, doing my favorite thing to do on a Saturday afternoon about lunchtime. Is look for a cheeseburger. The topic of today's moto vlog, if you will, is birthdays. Today is the first birthday of my Suzuki Boulevard C50T. Bought it new in 2018, although it's a 2017 model. If you can see that, I've put 8,321 kilometers on it in the last 12 months. I'd have to be the first to admit that a year ago, it was probably an impulse buy. I hadn't been on a bike for 25 years, 27 years, something like that. And I probably, when the idea first came up, put about a month of thought into it. And if you check out previous videos, you will learn that it is through the understanding and support of Mrs. Dirtlad that I was able to do this. So the last 12 months, 365 days, 8,300 plus kilometers. What's gone on? What's changed? Well, I was thinking about that very first ride back from the dealership. Didn't have the proper gear. Just had a helmet that I bought at the dealership. Argyle Motorsports, for those of you who are curious and in Edmonton. But that first ride, it was like getting back onto something that was, in my past, so to speak. And of course there was a little bit of rain and the skies were overcast, and I was basically white knuckling it to get it all the way home. Trying to remember old rusty skills or self-taught skills from a long time ago. But the next day, drove a little farther, got some gear that I could feel comfortable in, good jacket and boots, and within, seriously, 2 weeks of having this, took my first 3-hour road trip to another city. It's been a good year. I rode last year from June 15th until about, I want to say, October 2nd or 3rd. We had some cool weather at the end of September last year. So I ended up parking the bike. I probably could have got another 2 weeks out of it. But once it's in the garage and tarped up and the battery's out, it's kind of hard to, put all that work into it for just a brief ride. But now things are good. This year I pulled the tarp off. So that first riding season I got approximately 5,200 kilometers in. This year I pulled the tarp off, put the battery in, third week of March. We had a warm day in March. So I got everything good to go, took a little ride. Perhaps a little early, as in the mornings there was still some frost on the roads, and frost and gravel and two wheels, are a combination for bad things to happen if you're not paying attention, and even if you are paying attention, bad things can still happen. But yeah, so far this riding season, let's see, April, May, June, so about 3 months, I've put 3,000 kilometers on it. Gain another trip, 3 hours there and back to a neighboring city for some work events. I use this primarily to commute to work during the week, and obviously searching for cheeseburgers on the weekend. Oh, there's probably a cheeseburger in there. A&W. I love A&W. But let's not do the regular. So yeah, 1 year. That's the bike. That's how much I've ridden. But I think there's another key element that I want to raise. And this is going to go slightly off topic. But I want to talk about mental health, which is like, whoa, where'd that come from? There's been a lot of discussion lately, media, training sessions at various organizations, including ours, talking about mental health in the workplace. And the first thing I want to say is I am not a mental health professional. These are just my observations. My experiences and my outcomes are unique to me, but it's my story. But if you see anything in it that resonates with you, well then I'm glad you've taken the time to listen to my story. The other thing I want to point out before I start to tell my story is mental health and mental illness are two different things. Both of them are serious. But and in my opinion only, I'm not a mental health expert, mental health is like having a cold. It's one of those things where mostly you need to be thinking about yourself, looking after your own health. And if you get a cold, sometimes there's some things you can have done, rest and change of environment and just, looking after yourself. And that will mitigate the problem. Mental illness is something like cancer. And it's like, you can go on the internet all you want and read how to treat cancer, but ultimately, there's only one way to treat cancer, and that's go to a professional, get professional assistance, and work through cancer with a professional. So anyway, somebody playing guitar. I've been telling people, and you sort of see this in hindsight, that I was wound a little tight at work, if you will. Workplace challenges, whether it was workload, staffing issues, coworker issues, however you want to describe it, I was wound tighter than a piano wire. And the first way you can tell that you're wound tighter than a piano wire is when you say to people, "I'm wound tighter than a piano wire." So in hindsight, there was stuff going on that while I knew I was not in a good spot, it's like when it's bad enough that you realize you're not in a good spot, man, you're really not in a good spot. So I got this bike, started commuting, and I actually had a coworker say to me within 2 days, like I got this on a Friday, I brought it home, and she's telling me at work, like Tuesday, it's like, "Man, you are so much more relaxed." And I thought, oh, well, that's kind of nice. And the more I rode, and the more I used my time riding to disconnect from work, disconnect from the other, maybe normal things that are going on in somebody's life, but still things that are going on and need to be dealt with. I found myself better able to, either put into perspective some of the challenges that were going on, or maybe the other way to look at it is to figure out a way to pull my head out of my ass and be able to take a step back and go, okay, stuff's going on. How do we deal with the stuff? Because there's always going to be stuff. And I started to realize I wasn't dealing well. And what this last year has really done for me is, well, having the bike hasn't fixed the problems, because those problems are still there. It's helped me figure out a way to look at the problems and say, hey, there's a problem. And sort of the words I've been using lately is that I'm starting to see the trigger points, the things that, are necessary and have to be dealt with, but also trigger me to, not deal correctly. And so somebody's going to say, well, gee, Bruce, what do you mean by not dealing correctly? Just, it's like I was never, doing self-harm or anything like that. But, I suddenly realized that, gee, you're out on the weekend, and instead of having a couple of beers or a couple of whiskeys or something, you start to have 4 beers, or your whiskeys are all doubles. And, or you're not communicating well with coworkers or friends or people like that. So is everything perfect? No. But I'm starting to realize, like, oh, okay, this thing happens at work. This thing happens in places other than work. You can't let it knock you off. Oh, she's got desserts. Can't let it knock you off your stride, I guess. And this bike has done that for me. I don't know. maybe it's just a matter of always spending too much time waiting for something to happen. You know, having this is it's like, it's a positive action. You know, when I want to do something for me, I get on the bike and I do it for me. So yeah, that's kind of what the last year has been. It's been good. Well, anyway, just wanted to put that out to the universe and sort of say, hey, universe, China burger and barbecue. I'm going to make my way back to that, because burger, barbecue, doesn't sound like there could be any problems with that. Well, quick vlog, moto vlog, if you will. Ride safe. Thanks for clicking on the link. I know most people usually say things like, oh, hit this subscribe button. Well, you guys know how to do that. If it's something worth doing, if you do, appreciate it. And if this is your one-time in and out of riding with Dirt Lad, thank you for stopping by. I do appreciate your time.